And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Today, folks, we're going to be taking a look at a game called Dominare. This game is in the Tempest series of games from AEG. They're all set in the same universe. Love Letter is game 4. Game 1 is... I'm forgetting all the names, but there's 4 different games that are all set in the same universe, and I'm assuming we'll see more games as time goes by. This is what I would consider to be a heavy Euro game. There's area control and lots of agents. Let me show you how it works, and then we'll come back and give you our opinions. Here is the board for Dominare. Actually, this is a 2 to 4 player board. On the other side is a 5 to 6 player board. And there's just more space on the 5 to 6 player board, and you can even play 3 or 4 players on it. There's just less confrontation. Each player is going to get a whole pile of cubes which represent influence of their color, and the game is going to take place over 7 seasons. Now, this game revolves around agents. There is a whole deck of cards here, and each of these agents, there's all sorts of things. And what you're going to be doing with these agents, before I explain how the game is played, is each turn you're going to play an agent in front of you from your hand. And when you play an agent in front of you, you will turn them up, and many of the agents will have things that say when you turn it up, something happens. Let's see here if I can find one. Revealed, recruit. She gets to take a recruit action when she's revealed. And then that agent will stay in front of you, likely, for the rest of the game. So you're going to have up to 7 agents in front of you, and each turn, as the turns progress, you'll be using these agents. Now, these agents will let you do a couple things. Each agent will give you an income. So this Walter here will give 3 gold coins each turn. Each agent also has an exposure number. Exposure, whenever you put out a player with exposure, you will move yourself along this exposure track. Having exposure is great because it might let you go first, but at the end of the game, the player with the most exposure is going to lose 1 point for every 3 they have. Everyone else is going to lose 5 points. I mean, one point for every 5 they have, except for whoever has the lowest exposure, they don't lose any points. And that's a big deal. But the problem is the people with the best exposure have better abilities. Now, you also notice there's a 4 here and a 6 here. That means if I place this noble, Walter, in position 4, 5, 6, or 7 as the game progresses, he'll be able to use the 4. And he'll be able to use the 6 ability if I place him in position 6 or 7. So, for example, Johann here has an ability he can use in positions 3 through 7, or one that can be used in just 7. And you'll see that many of them, some of them, if you stick him in position 1, I'll be able to use his ability. Why, if I stick him in position 7, he has a very different ability. So all these things come into account, but not only is there money, but many of the characters also have influence here, and then they have a matching symbol. So this person lets you put 2 influence in the Athenaeum. And then the Athenaeum is here. Senate, Merchant Quarter, Warrens, Corte Scalzo, the canals are scattered all over the board. Up there is the church, etc. So this is how a round works. First, everyone puts down a person and reveals them. Then, an event card is drawn. That event card will have something that happens in Season 1 or after, and then, or once you get to Season 4, this one will say instead do this. And sometimes they affect the scapegoat. The scapegoat is always the person who has the highest exposure, and there's a player order chart over here. And then on the side here are 2 numbers. Now, each of these areas is worth a certain amount of victory points. For example, at the beginning of the game, the church is worth 4 victory points, but if this card was played, you can see that this card shows the church symbol. Whoever the scapegoat is could decide to move the church up by 2, making the church worth 6 victory points. Or they could move the merchant one up 1. And if they move the merchant up 1, then they have to make the church go down by 2. So they're going to pick one of these numbers to go up by that number, and they're going to make the other one go down. And so the values of all the different areas are going to change based on the event card. Also, the event card will have something happen to everybody. After that's happened, we have what's called the canvas part, where each person in turn order, starting with the scapegoat, will use their person and take their money and place their influence. When placing influence on the board, it's often done the same way. There's different spots on the board. Let's say I'm placing influence here in the merchant quarter, and the person lets me place 2 influence. So I'll put it in this spot because it's worth 3 points at the end of the game. If I want to spread it out to more than one spot, I can do so, but I have to pay a coin for each extra spot I put it in. I might not want to put it in this -1 spot because that's worth a negative point at the end of the game, but I might do that just to retain control of the merchant quarter, because whoever has the most blocks controls that section. Now, if someone else places blocks in one where I have, let's say they put 2 here. Well, first one of them would be used to remove mine, and then the other would stay over. So blocks will destroy each other on a 1-to-1 basis, and you can put a lot of blocks in an area to rescue, to keep it intact. Canals are around the board, and there's different spots, and so players will be canvassing. So by the time you get to season 7, you'll be canvassing 7 different people. After that, in seasons 1 through 6, each person will have 2 actions. Again, you take those in turn order. The action may be one that's on a person's card. For example, Lady Gisela Salis, if she's in action 3, she can make everyone else lose 3 crowns and get 3 crowns. If she's in position 4 or higher, she can make everyone else lose 5 and get 5. If she's in position 6, she can make everyone else flip down their rank 1 and rank 2 agents and then take another action. So there's lots of different, it would take me so long to go over all the different actions of these people. Now, I do want to point out one thing here. When you are canvassing, getting the money and the respect, there's something called networking. If you have people who have the same keywords next to each other, like knave and knave here, or maybe here's a noble and a senator, and so if he's next to someone else who has either noble, if he's next to Fergan Nicolo next to Joshua Baruch, they're both nobles. They'll get an extra influence that they get to put out, and that's a really big deal. That's called networking. So anyway, everyone gets 2 actions. They can use an action on one of their characters. They can unflip a character if a character was flipped face down as an action. If you control a region, you will get the special ability that's associated with that region. Like, for example, the church lets you put 2 influence in any non-church block. The Athenaeum lets you recruit from the top of the deck with 4 cards rather than normal 2. That's another action you can take. Take 2 cards and pick one of these that you'll get and add it to your hand so that you can play them down. The more you have in your hand, the more options you have. You can also put influence out anywhere on the board as long as you pay for it with money. The cost is the current victory point value of each region. So if I wanted to put 4 blocks and 4 cubes in 1 block in the Athenaeum, it would cost me $8 right now because it's worth 2. Between seasons 3 and 4, there's a draft where each player is going to get 5 more agents to supplement the ones that they started the game with, because players will start with several agents as the game goes by. At the end of season 7, when everyone gets 3 actions, the game will end. Everyone will score points. Each block that's worth a point value will give you points. Whoever controls the majority of each block will get the points that side is worth. And some characters give bonus points. Players will also lose points because of exposure, as I said earlier. Whoever has the most points is the winner. All right, a lot to talk about here. But let's start out with basic overall impressions of the game. What'd you think?
I like the board artwork. That was pretty cool how they showed like different cities.
Yep, I think the artwork is great all the way across. The board and the characters. I think the character artwork is good.
I liked how there are so many different types of characters. Some were like not that fun to play with, and others were like really powerful, like the king.
Yeah, the king has the most exposure and has at the end of the game, has a special ability that lets him use 4 actions. But that exposure is so high that you can lose points for him.
Which happened to me.
Well, what'd you think? I mean, one of the things I thought that was pretty cool is there's so many different characters. There are tons of different characters, and they're all different. They have special abilities. You might want them because they affect different regions.
They might help other people put out more exposure points in the cities.
Or they steal money. Some of them are better to play at the beginning of the game. Some of them are better to wait until the end of the game. They're really the main part of the game, these characters, and I like them a lot. What did you like about the area controls? You try to control areas and fight with other people, taking it from them. Did you like that part?
Yes, I also liked how each city has its own special abilities that you had to try to fight for too. Because also at the end of the game, you had to try to get all those points, which I didn't really which I needed.
Well, I mean, it's certainly going to be a game that you're not going to get in one playing. You're going to have to play several times, and I think this one works really well. Now, I'm going to say something I think is kind of a little negative about this game. It's a little longer than I'd like it to be, especially in turns 5, 6, and 7 when you're going through all 5 characters. The way it works is we do Agent 1 for each person in turn order, then Agent 2, then Agent 3, then Agent 4, then Agent 5. So by the time you get to turn 7, there are so many agents to go through. And so you have to kind of speed it up. I almost think the game would have been better had it only been 5 turns or something, but don't get me wrong, I was very involved as I played. It just felt like it was very long. What did you think? Did you think it was too long or just right?
Yeah, a little, because at the end I'm just like, I want my turn to be over. I want my turn to come, because I waited for people who weren't that fast at thinking their turns through.
Yeah, and it might be better to play this as a smaller player game, a 3 or 4 player game. 5 or 6 is kind of pushing it. A lot of actions, a lot of things. 6 player game I did not try, but I suspect that would take an enormous amount of time. That being said, well, let's go to final thoughts. What'd you think?
I really loved this game. It was just so much fun to play. I can't wait to play it again.
So you think we should keep it?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, I mean, here's my deal. That is my only hang-up on the game is its length. Other than that, I am fascinated by it because each character, every game's going to be different. I love drafting, and drafting's in this game, and you get to draft different characters and take them in your hands and try to make combos so that they can network, but you're also looking at a character, which area do they influence, and you're also looking at their special ability and how much money do they give, and there's so many different things. It's like having all these cool cards, and there's like 50 to, I don't know how many different characters
Some
are.
of their abilities are really, really good. Like, there's this one guy that let you put in 8 influence in one place that was someone else's.
Right. It was really cool. My only issue is game length. If I can find some way to kind of make the game go faster, I think I would enjoy it that much more. I didn't realize you liked it that much, but I think that's a thumbs up from both of us. Just realize you're getting into a longer game. I think 2 hours is 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours the game could take. It's pretty involved, but I think the experience is very rewarding. Thank you, Thunder. Anyhow, Dominare.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
The door!